Welcome to the Less Trodden Path podcast, a dedication to untangling the world in a raw and honest way, following your gut and your dreams, no matter what they may be. Often they are different to what is known as the norm, a step out of the comfort zone, the path less tread. We are here to help inspire you to take your own path by sharing both our own journey and the stories of others too, making it clear along the way that anyone can do it, whatever it may be, with all the ups and downs, the good, the bad, the pretty, the ugly included. Dreams take time, but if you put your all into it, time doesn't mean anything. This week we speak to Laurie, who we met just before she left for the path she is now fully immersed in. Laurie inspiringly decided to move to Cambodia just 6 months after visiting for the first time for a short and sweet yoga and sunshine getaway. Despite having solid foundations and a safety net around her back home, such as work, a pet and a newly bought house, upon returning from Cambodia she simply could not shift the holiday blues and knew there was more there for her than a simple trip. So she took the plunge, and a lot quicker than originally planned too. We hope you enjoy this episode as much as we did. Just do it, whatever it may be. Here is Laurie's very own Less Trodden Path.
Out my bucket list.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. It's really cool to be chatting with you finally.
Yeah, I know.
It's been
That's very squeaky.
been meaning to kind of do it for ages.
Yeah, give me 1 sec. I'm
Yeah.
just going to close all the windows in my bedroom.
No
because
worries.
They've started their karaoke is very popular in Cambodia.
Okay.
And oh, there we are. And they've started singing already. Because it's 5 o'clock.
How are you anyway though? I love that we finally kind of, been able to get together and chat, because I've been wanting to for ages for some reason. Like, I don't know, I've been following you for obviously since I guess we kind of met, and I've just been really intrigued by everything that you do. Like, I don't know, I love it.
I don't know if it's as interesting as it looks on Instagram. Which
I mean,
I think is the case for lots of things, right?
yeah, oh, definitely. But I guess your move from the UK to Cambodia for starters was just so cool, because I read your blog that you did about it, and it was just wow, I don't know, that's just so cool. Literally, in no time at all, you were from one place to another.
It did happen pretty quickly, although it was one of those things that kind of felt like it was. I'm not sure where I stand on the manifestation and visualization and all that stuff. I think it's pretty privileged perspective, but also I think in sometimes some things just happen and they're easy and it feels like they're maybe meant to happen.
Yeah. I hear that. Yeah. I definitely hear that. But, I mean, obviously, before we kind of get into all of that, how are you anyway? How's life? How was Christmas? How was New Year?
Yeah, good.
How are you?
I don't know about you guys. We're not in lockdown here, so...
Okay.
It's been pretty normal. Sometimes the gyms have been closed or whatever like that. And schools closed for a bit, but they're reopen again now. But restaurants have still been open. We've still been able to travel in country.
Okay.
So it's been good. We went on holiday over Christmas and New Year. So
nice.
I went with my brother. We just went traveling around Cambodia, and that was really fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Does he live in Cambodia as well then?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's really cool. That's cool, because I remember
he moved in March.
Oh, okay. I remember you mentioned him and how he had helped you with looking at vans or something. But that makes sense that he's actually living in Cambodia. That's really cool. Yeah. That's awesome. Do they celebrate Christmas?
No. Well, Cambodia which is lovely actually. So technically, no, they don't celebrate Christmas, but they do have a party regardless of what's happening. So on Christmas, even though we were going to bed, they were up having, like, the people like next to our guest house we were staying in were having a party.
Yeah.
Wow. So, like, no, like, it's a Buddhist country.
Yeah.
So it's not technically a celebration of them. Khmer is like Cambodians would be called Khmer in country.
Okay.
So Khmer New Year is actually in April, but they still celebrate Christmas and New Year.
Yeah, that's really cool though that I love the whole, like, they just celebrate anyway. Like, that's how everyone should live. Everyone should just celebrate all the time.
I know, well, they celebrate more than us.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
That's awesome though, but travelling around Cambodia over Christmas and New Year sounds pretty cool.
Sounds ideal. Sounds like the ideal way to spend those.
I'm assuming it's, like, warm where you are and stuff as well? Or are you in, like...
it's tropical climate. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, today it's 24 degrees and I'm freezing.
Yeah.
But normally it's, like, between 30 and 40.
Okay, that's awesome. And I'm guessing, does it have, like, rainy seasons?
Yeah, we have rainy season. It depends when it starts, between July and October, but it can start, I mean, it's meant to be August to October.
Okay.
But it can be anything between July to the end of November. This year it came late, but then it was still raining up until sort of like the end of November, and it's pretty depressing.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine, like, because I guess I've never actually been to Cambodia, but I've been to, like, Thailand and Bali. So I'm assuming it's kind of similar in that way to, like, those kind of seasons and stuff.
Yeah, seasonally similar. It's a bit hotter.
Okay.
Well, it depends where you go in Thailand, actually, because if you're in mainland Thailand, it's probably similar.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like, I live inland, so it's just kind of warm and tropical all year round with a rainy season. But if, say, you go to the islands in Thailand, obviously it can be really cold and rainy.
Yeah.
Well, not really cold, but, you know, cold-ish and rainy a lot more, which is the same here if you go down to the coast.
Yeah.
You can have sort of unseasonable weather.
Okay. That's so...
It's nice, though.
Yeah, I bet.
And yeah, it's probably it's similar to... Well, it depends where you went in Bali, but it's similar to Thailand or Bali, but a lot less developed.
Okay.
Thailand and Bali, well, Indonesia as a whole maybe still has some developing, but Bali's obviously been built up as a tourist destination now. Yeah. And Thailand has a pretty strong economy, so they're more developed than where we are.
That's
for sure.
really interesting.
But, yeah, it's good. Nice place to live.
How long have you been there for now?
Since December 2019, so a year and a month or two.
Wow, that's gone so fast. That's crazy. And, like, go on then, whilst we're on, like, the subject of Cambodia, tell us, like, about it, or I don't know, like, how are you finding it? How did you find the transition? Because obviously, maybe take it back a bit further, and obviously you went out, from what I remember reading, you went out as, like, a holiday?
Yeah, so I came out in August 2019 for a holiday. Really randomly, we chose Cambodia. I was looking for a holiday with my friend. We were searching online. We wanted somewhere that was going to be warm, that had yoga. That was about it. And a pool. A hotel with a pool. Yeah, I know. And we were looking at Europe originally. We were looking at Portugal, and we were looking at other places in Europe, and it was so expensive because the euro is so weak. And then we looked at sort of like Mexico, and we were just looking on all the sort of secret escapes and, you know, those deal websites. And I found this like really nice looking hotel in Cambodia that had yoga and a pool and was like really reasonable once you'd looked at flights and everything. It was much cheaper than going somewhere sort of 4-star in Portugal in August. So we ended up coming to Cambodia on the hotel looking nice. I really didn't know anything about Cambodia, which is probably my own ignorance because I didn't do much history at school. I gave it up in year 9. So, and geography. Like, I just didn't know anything about Cambodia. I'd been to Thailand before, but that was it. So anyway, we came, and I came for 2 weeks. First 10 days with my friend, and then my brother came over because he was living in Vietnam at the time for a few days, and I just loved it. I couldn't put my finger on what it was I liked. Really, like I like lots of things. Like, I liked the weather, I liked the people I was meeting, I liked the sort of vibe of the place. It's that thing you can't put your finger on, right? When you go to a place and you really like it, there's that difference from going somewhere on holiday and being like, oh, this is a fun holiday, I look forward to going home, or going somewhere on holiday and being like, oh, I could live here. Like when you go to visit your friends in the UK, right? Some places you go and you're like, oh, this is nice, and other places you go like, wow, I want to be here more.
Yeah, definitely.
And I just had that feeling when I came here on holiday. I just was like, you know what, that's somewhere I want to spend more time. So I sort of made a plan in my head and said to myself, well, I need to do another year of work to save money. I just bought my house. I was like, I need to do another year of work. Maybe I'll try and get out to Cambodia by December 2020. I was like, by that point, you know, I will have another like year and a bit of savings. I will have been in the house a little while. I can rent the house out, quit my job, and move. So it kind of was like a vague plan in my head. But then I got back to England, and I think I landed back in September 2019, and I did all the, you know, went back to work, my first day back to work. I was working remotely even then, but I just kind of cried. It was really strange. Like, I went back to work, and all of the feelings I'd had when I was away, they had gone and replaced with just this anxiety and this, like, just, I was apathetic about the work I was doing. And so I decided to kind of move everything forward, and that I would move to Cambodia in January 2020. And then I did a bit more research on like the seasons and realised the best weather was between December and March. So then I moved it forward and decided I'd leave in December so that I'd get the best weather.
That's so awesome. Like, I literally, it's just so cool that you went from, oh yeah, perhaps, you know, in a year's time, to coming home. And the thing is, I guess you got that feeling that everyone gets when they come back from holiday, but everyone just pushes aside and allows that misery to continue. Or I say everyone, most people, or a lot of people, whereas you were like, no, like, I'm taking charge and I'm going to chase this. And you did more. Like, you didn't even just chase it until the date set. You like pushed it forwards.
Yeah, I mean, it was good timing for me, for sure, because when I went to Thailand for the first time in 2015, I loved it. I loved Koh, loved the yoga, loved the vibe, and was like, I really want to live here. But I got home and I was just in a different situation. Like, I was still living in London, was in some debt, had a lot of shit to deal with before I even thought about moving overseas. So that was like a real pipe dream. Whereas I think this time round, like 4 years later or whatever, I was just in a different place. Like, I'd got sober, I'd done my yoga teacher training. Financially, I was quite sorted, or, you know, as sorted as I was going to be. I wasn't in the shit like I had been before. I was in a place where I could make it happen, and I think it is a little bit about being brave and doing something out of your comfort zone. But at the same time, I know who I am as a person, and if I'd still been in the position I had been in 2015, where I was drinking too much and scraping by and not very, I don't know, just not very happy. Even if I had come to Cambodia and loved it, I wouldn't have been in the place to move.
Oh, definitely.
Or if I had moved, it would have been a disaster.
Some steep learning curves.
Yeah.
As it were.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess you were lucky as well, like, in the sense of when it happened, because if you had kept it
If it
until...
had been this year...
Yeah, you wouldn't have been able to go.
Yeah, I mean, if I'd kept it
To the original plan.
Yeah, to the original, I wouldn't have been able to.
No.
Like, I would, if I'd left it till December 2020, well, no, I would be at home.
Yeah.
Definitely meant to be as well.
Sounds like it.
Oh, it's amazing. What did you do, like, obviously, maybe not going too much into it, but, like, obviously you said you had the house as well that you had just bought. Like, was that just you know, how did that feel? Going from having just bought a house, like, was it your first house?
Yeah.
So you just bought this first house and then suddenly you were just leaving it again and moving countries.
It was an interesting decision and probably not one I'd advise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt weird. It's just rented out. Oh, actually, yeah, that's it. But
Yeah.
it was weird. And I mean, my original plan, although I had shifted this already by the time COVID hit, was to come back in May for a visit or to figure out what I was going to do next.
Was that-
And then COVID hit.
This May coming or May?
May just gone.
No, May 2020.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
So I didn't know how I'd like Cambodia to begin with. So in my head I was like, oh, I'll just do 5 months
Yeah.
or 6 months and I'll see how it goes. You know, maybe I won't have any friends.
Yeah.
Maybe I won't get on well. Maybe I just won't like it. So I planned to just come to 5 months to begin with. And then I realised quite quickly I wanted to stay longer. And then anyway, COVID hit. So
Yeah. You have no choice
it's
anyway.
been what it is. Yeah, I had rebooked flights to come home in October and those have been cancelled.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I want to come back in the summer to the UK for a visit,
Yeah.
for sure. But it's a good place to live and it's been a good place to ride out the pandemic.
Yeah, I bet. That's awesome. So do you kind of plan on coming back for a visit but then heading back out there, or are you literally just taking it like a day or a week at a time or even a month? I don't know.
Day by day at the moment,
Yeah.
to be honest. I think if we do, when I try and plan further, I just end up getting upset. Or not upset, but sort of like frustrated because I have this year has really shown us that we have absolutely, or at least shown me that I have no control really over what's going to
Happen, I guess.
happen.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to kind of take it like day by day.
Yeah.
Do
That's fair enough.
what
Definitely the way to do it.
what makes me happy on that day and kind of plan in terms of, you know, making sure I've got enough money and I know what I'm going to do. But my focus recently has really been on structuring my days
Yeah.
rather than worrying about the bigger picture. I have ideas of what I might do, and they do include maybe going back to UK or maybe staying here. But the bigger sort of thing in my mind is just not getting through the days because I'm having a good time, but putting some structure into my life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's incredible. I like that you're just giving yourself that time. You know, it's good that you've almost kind of taken that step back and just put yourself first.
Yeah, what about you guys? Have you got a plan, or are you doing day by day?
Yeah,
Or
definitely day by day.
I mean, we try and say day by day, but it's a more like hour by hour. Welcome to van life. Like, you plan a day, you wake up, it starts, and within an hour, it's like completely different.
So much can happen in one little piece of time that your whole idea of the day can change at any moment.
Yesterday we had like we call it a vadmin day, where we do all of our admin and stuff alongside finding a new spot. And obviously we've been here now for almost 3 months, I think, and it was the first day in 3 months that everything's gone smoothly when it comes to admin and finding a new spot. And we arrived in the evening and we was like, can you believe that
We're a bit lost.
that just happened? Like, this is weird. Like, why has this not happened? And why has that not happened? And why are we just here so early? Like, it was crazy.
All the time.
But,
yeah.
but other than that.
And how, so in terms of like, so I'm going to ask, sorry, I know this is meant to be you guys
Yeah,
talking
No,
about
go for
you
it.
as well. How are you, so for me, when I first moved overseas, I quit my job,
Yeah.
but then they offered for me to keep doing it.
Okay.
So I was working remotely for them for quite a long time, and then in October that ended.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I do some life coaching and some content writing for and that's kind of how I make money and a little bit of affiliate stuff. And so for me, probably I could keep doing. I'm not earning loads and loads of money, but it's enough to survive in Cambodia and to make me think, am I going to do this long term? Like, is this what I want to do long term? What about you guys? Like, are you thinking, because I know you were teaching yoga, right?
Yeah.
Laura? And then Ben was doing other stuff. So for you, are you thinking, if we were talking big picture, I know it's hard to plan, especially with COVID, but is van life your long term, or is it like a gap year, or what?
So van life at the moment is long term. It's until we come across the next thing that feels right. And we don't know what that is. So we're literally just, we're going until it just kind of happens. If it happened, it could happen tomorrow and it feels it feels perfect, or it could happen in 5-10 years time. We have nothing in mind in regards to kind of the next thing. So we'll just let it come to us whilst we do us. If that makes sense. One of the reasons we kind of came into van life alongside coronavirus happening and our Australia plans kind of going down the hill was to also, we both want to work for ourselves. Like, it's always been a thing that we've said since, we were old enough to know that was a thing, kind of thing. And this is a way to almost...
It's like a platform to springboard all the ideas we've always had, but not been able to really work on, maybe.
Yeah, without
or
anything.
Even figure out some of just what the ideas are. But even 3 months into this, I feel like we're already getting there.
Yeah.
It's been, even though we've not always known if the idea is going to work, or if there is even an idea, this is like a perfect way to live, just to work on those things to make them something real. That's kind of why we decided to do it. I guess it probably similar in the way that you've said that you've had to sort of pick up different bits and pieces to try and make things work, but through that you're kind of figuring, what do I want to do long term? And I guess it's the same sort of thing. We're just working on bits and pieces, and what feels right we're running with and trying to make into something bigger and more that can sustain long term. If that makes any sense.
It's so interesting. Yeah, so much sense. It's so interesting to hear. You guys are kind of going through the same thing I'm going through at the moment, because my job sort of ended in October. I won't go into that, but I kind of have this came into this decision or thinking, which was do I go for another full-time job? Which my job wasn't full-time, but it was 4 days a week. So before the job I was doing, which I did for 2.5 years, I was freelance before that, and I did some marketing consulting, and I taught a lot of yoga. And I had a lot more freedom to work on my own projects. And then I took the job, and all of a sudden, the combination of a regular good paycheck and work being kind of all-consuming, as well as trying to teach quite a lot of yoga still, meant I had no time to work on my own stuff. And in December this year, kind of the work ended at the end of October. So actually November and December, I sort of sat back and realised I haven't properly worked on my own stuff for over 2.5 years. I've done a blog here and there, or I've thought about something, but I haven't had any of the freedom to actually do it. And I don't know, I know lots of people are disciplined and they manage to make so many things work whilst they're working full time. But for me, I just don't, I'm not very good at that hustle.
Yeah.
And it just really tires me out. Like, I want to sleep for like 8 or 9 hours a night. I want to have downtime.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I'm not my like most creative, productive, whatever you want to say, self when I'm, you know, working 40 or 50 hours a week plus then trying to work on my own stuff. So recently, because Cambodia is like low cost to live, I've sort of been in this like nice position where even though I'm not earning very much money from the work I'm doing, or I'm not at the moment, it depends, but at the moment, like if I just say the content writing, it's not very well paid, but doing, you know, half a day, 4 hours a day, you know, 4 or 5 days a week, which is actually only half the time I would normally be working, covers my living costs. So then I get to spend what I've been doing is spending the mornings working on my own stuff.
Yeah.
You can put that energy into it.
Yeah, and it's kind of like what you guys are saying, right? Without the confines of sort of a big rent payment or a big mortgage payment and sort of your everyday life like you would have at home, you have so much more space.
Yeah.
You can put that
think,
energy in.
Yeah, one of the best things about kind of what you've just said and what, you know, what we're both kind of doing, as in you and us too, is obviously like you have, when you work this full-time job, like you were saying, you have to put all of your energy into that, which means that when it comes to like the weekend or your day off or the evening when you come home, you're so tired from the day or, you know, whatever you've been doing at work that you can't then do you, which a lot of people almost get wrapped into sometimes, or they, you know, it's easy to forget. And it's not that it's anyone's fault at all. It's just what we're kind of, a lot of people have been brought up around. And, you know, for example, the life that you've chosen or the life that we've kind of gone for strips you back from all of that and makes you realise that you don't need all those things. You don't need to earn all of that money to, you know, to have a good life. You don't need to work 50 hours a week just to do this or to do that. And, you know, I think a lot of people do get lost in it. And again, not to anyone's fault, you know, it's just something that has happened. But it's definitely something that almost needs to be taken away from people to just open them up to like what you can actually do. You know, like you said, you just went out to Cambodia despite, you know, you were in a good place, but you had the house and you had other things going on. But it was almost like no, like I'm doing this, I've got this, I can do it, you know, it will work. And you almost believed in it. It's having that belief and going for it. And, you know, now you're kind of in a place where you're not earning as much, but you're still living that life. You're still healthy, you're still well, you're still safe, you're still being fed and all that. So I think it's a case of just believing and being brave. And obviously there's other kind of factors to kind of bring into it all, but it is, belief and bravery is definitely a big thing.
Yeah, I think there's a case for doing things as well when you're younger. And I know that the way we're traditionally taught to do it is that you wait till you're retired and you do what you want to do then. And obviously some people have kids young and that's quite restrictive.
Yeah.
Well, not restrictive, like you have a different happy life, but you maybe don't have the same freedom to just kind of up and move. But it definitely is a different choice, because I look at it and think, if you know, Sliding Doors or any of those films that show two different ways, like I easily could have told myself that I had too much going on in the UK and I couldn't move, and I wouldn't have moved. I would still be in the UK.
Yeah.
And I guess same for you guys. Like you could have said, you know, COVID could have happened, and you could have said, no, okay, it's safer to stay at home. We're gonna put our van dreams on on hold, and then you don't know what's going to happen next, so you could have not done it. So I think it's quite interesting to me that this notion that actually sometimes all it is one decision.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely is.
This one little moment that could have changed everything.
Yeah.
I mean, we almost did. It was funny you say that, because there was a talk, once upon a time we had a conversation, Laura and I, where I said, we'll wait till December. We'll wait till December 2020, because then things might be better. And Laura's like, no, we've got to go. And if we'd have waited, we'd have been nowhere different.
Mm-hmm.
We just wouldn't have done anything.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So it just goes to show, when you make those decisions, they're worth just going for. You never know.
Yeah, and I did this. I remember, when I was doing, like I said earlier, trying to work out. I was like, okay, so I'm gonna quit. I'd quit my job at this point when I was trying to make the decision. I quit, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna keep teaching yoga, and I can, I'll get by on that, and then I'll still go to Cambodia sort of the end of December 2020. And then I looked at how much it was going to cost me to stay in the UK and use what savings I have, and I was like, it's just going to be cheaper for me to go to Cambodia now.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm trying to save because I think it's more. I'm trying to stay in the UK because I think it's more stable. But actually, whether I stay or go, I'm going to be in a similar situation in 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, sometimes I think it feels safer to stay because of the sunk cost fallacy.
Mm-hmm.
Like the idea that you've already put everything into it, and so you want to keep putting in to what you've already put into.
Yeah.
But actually, if you look at it with fresh eyes from zero rather than from where
you were.
all of the stepping stones that have put you into where you've got to, it's easier to make the decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's so true.
No, it's a bit it's a funny one, because you can almost look at it obviously people say the grass is greener on the other side, whereas obviously it isn't, but at the same time, if you don't go for it, there's no growth. Mm-hmm. There's no, like you said, you could stay where you are, where you've built everything, where, you've got your home, you've got your safety, you've got maybe family, you've got friends, you've got the work, you've got all of that, everything that you have built up. And obviously then you have the empty, the unknown. But then not travelling across to that unknown, you'll keep growing where you are, but for all you know, no matter what happens with the unknown, whether you dislike it and come back or love it and stay, there'll be some form of growth with just kind of taking that step. But staying as you are, the growth will kind of just keep going, but
you won't get the same growth.
Yeah, there won't be any kind of learning, and there won't be any of that.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think but I'm also really mindful that, we can sit here and say all of these things, about moving and making the decision to move, and not how much better our lives are, but how different our lives are for it, and how we've got all this freedom now, and that is all true. But I also remember, and it is also true for other people, how difficult that decision is.
Yeah.
And how I think it is bravery, but it's also a little bit of I don't want to say recklessness, because it's not reckless, probably is considered, but you have to have a backup.
Yeah.
I think, not everybody does have a backup, but for me, I know that, shit hits the fan here. Mm-hmm. I can go home to the UK, live at my mum's if she hasn't got a house
definitely,
and get a job at Tesco.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think,
and that's fine. My worst case scenario isn't that bad.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think there's something to be said for that, because it gives you a certain level of a springboard to jump off.
Yeah, you have that kind of safety net in case you don't fly, kind of thing, in case,
Yeah.
which is definitely important, because obviously not everyone has that. And I guess in a way it's also kind of like, it's a hard one because, if you never, it's almost like the quote of, if you never try, you'll never know. But at the same time, you, again, always do have to think of those factors behind it. What's going to happen if I do fail and fall, like, which most, a lot of the time it always kind of works out. But it is, like you said, it is always good to know or to plan a backup in case you need it. Whatever that may be, obviously different for everyone. But yeah, that's definitely kind of obviously a good thing to...
I think the thing to remember in those like decision, like it definitely does feel a bit reckless when you make those decisions. Whether it is or not, I guess it sort of just depends on like people's perspective. But I think that, like, I always think in those moments, you just got to remember that life isn't one period of time. Like, if things did go wrong and you did end up back home in a job in Tesco, that's not the end. Like, you would then work through that and figure something else out and build on that and build on that and eventually you'd end up somewhere else. And it's just like, I think people get lost in this idea that life is one set place, when actually, like, it's not. It's this journey of ups and downs. Regardless of what decisions you make, it's going to be ups and downs. You know, that's why I think that, like, making the more crazy decision in some people's eyes is always better, because if you make the decision to play it safe, it's still going to be a series of ups and downs. So you may as well have the ups and downs in the place you want to be, or the, whatever the decision is. You may as well make the decision that you really want to make in your gut, regardless of how safe it might be, because it's going to be ups and downs anyway. That's kind of how I see it anyway.
No, I agree, and I think for me, like, the worst case scenario of being back in the UK and working in Tesco or whatever, like, I have so much, like, I know a lot of people that work in supermarkets and it's a good job and it's a stable job, and for me, like, I can 100% deal with that worst case scenario because I think I'd quite enjoy it. Actually, it's pretty competitive to get a supermarket job these days, so maybe I'd go on universal credit if I couldn't get a job, but that's a totally fine worst case scenario for me, and I think that it's quite a good exercise to do. I think it's like it originates from like Stoic philosophy, really, but to ask yourself when you make a decision, like, what is the worst case scenario here, and can I deal with it? And if you can, then why not do the thing you want to do? And it doesn't have to be, moving overseas, although obviously that's like a lot of what we have in common. It can be changing your job, or starting a new project, or trying to get fit for the first time. Like, if you're trying to if you want to do couch to 5K, then the worst thing that can happen is you're back on your couch and you can't be bothered. Can you deal with that outcome, that worst case scenario?
Yeah.
I could.
Yeah.
So then you do it.
Yeah, definitely. I like that you've said that, because it's reminded me of us, and when we were kind of, thinking of or planning everything, we knew we were kind of going to go, but it was, you still have the worries. Like, no matter what it is, no matter how much you want it, you still have those thoughts.
You still doubt yourself.
And and it reminds me of every time we had one of those thoughts or one of those days, we, it would be like but the worst case scenario would just be this or that. And thinking back to it now, it's like, it really isn't that bad. Like, it's not ideal at all, and it's the last thing we would want, but it's not that bad. As long as you're still you, as long as you still believe in yourself, and as long as you still follow, you don't just kind of give up, like completely give up and just, let everything else kind of take over, then you will always make it work, and it will always be fine. And it, like Ben said, it will always come back up at some point. Like, it won't just stay down forever, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think there's a thing to be said, so I liked what Ben said too, on you know, not thinking everything is final. And it's a human trait to think that, you know, the decision you make now is going to be the decision that holds you down forever. And actually, like, we can change and pivot and change our mind all the time. So a decision isn't final, but when you're making it, it does often feel it. It feels like, oh God, like, I'm, like, for me, like, I'm making this decision to go to Cambodia, that I'm never going to live in the UK again. Well, I mean, no, that was not the decision I was making. But it felt like it when I was doing it. It felt like I was, you know, deciding to make this massive life change. And it was, in some ways, quite a big life change. But it was completely reversible.
Yeah, definitely.
The only thing that wasn't going to be reversible was if I had actually gone through with quitting my job. And then I would have had to get a different job when I got back to England. But everything else, like, it wasn't a final decision. It was just a change of path.
Yeah. I love that. What, obviously, like, with, like, job-wise, because I remember reading, hadn't you, the place that you had first moved to in Cambodia was the place that you had stayed at, and they kind of offered you a job and stuff?
Oh, yeah, so it was the hotel that I stayed at when I went to Cambodia on holiday.
Yeah.
I started teaching yoga there about a month into moving to Cambodia. So it was quite a nice, like, full circle thing. Yeah, I love teaching that yoga there. I'm not actually teaching there at the moment because I've been focusing on some other things. I'm teaching privates. But it was just so nice because I remember practicing in that shala when I came on holiday and thinking, oh, I'd love to teach here, and just thinking it was completely out of reach. And then, 6 months later,
That's
there
amazing.
I am teaching in that shala.
Yeah.
Again, I'm so aware of my own privilege with all of this, and like, yes, I did make it happen, and yes, lots of people are able to make it happen, but at the same time, lots of people aren't. But it did work out, and it was really nice to be sort of teaching from there, and it's a beautiful place, and it felt very full circle and like it was meant to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool. Like, you know, there's obviously, like you said, going back slightly, how we said about you go to a place and you look at it and you're like, oh, imagine living here, or imagine, you know, teaching here, or imagine this, imagine that, and you've actually gone and, you know, 6 months later as well, not just like a few years, like 6 months is nothing really, and you're there 6 months later doing what you had kind of sort of imagined when you first went, which is just really kind of amazing. I don't know, it just brings this huge smile to my face, like, oh, that's like, you know, something that, I mean, I'd love to do with some spots that I've seen. But what's during like the whole kind of, you know, getting to Cambodia the first time, to moving there, to living there now for just over a year, and even now, like, what's been the most testing moments, or, you know, one testing moment or the most testing moments, and what have you kind of learnt from them or learning from them?
Just thinking. I think the big thing I've taken is that you can move where you are, and you can move 10,000 miles away from home, but if there's stuff you're struggling with at home, it's going to be stuff you struggle with when you're away. So yes, I removed some big pressures like a big mortgage payment and you know, high cost of living, and when my job went, like, I've removed kind of needing to work loads, but I still am the same person with the same mental health, with the same tendency to overthink and worry and decide randomly that none of my friends really like me. You know, all of that stuff that was the case when I was in the UK, that's still the case here. And I think a challenge, I suppose. It's just coming to terms with the fact that you can't outrun who you are, and you need to keep doing the work, even if you can, distract yourself by warm weather and new challenges and new people. Still, I had a bit of a reprieve with my mental health. With my mental health when I first moved. Like, I had 3 months of feeling great, but everything comes back in the end, and managing feeling not so good without my sort of mum and my really good friends from home was pretty difficult, especially when it kind of coincided with COVID and obviously all of that stuff going on as well.
Yeah.
I think I love being away, and I've made some really, really good friends, but I struggled when I was having a difficult time without having people that had known me for years and years. And that was a big challenge. And I think, I've dealt with that twofold. Like, I still speak to people from home a lot, and also I just started to lean in and trust the friends I have here, that even though they haven't been my friends for a long time, there's still a quality of friendship. I can trust them to talk about things. Whereas I think in the early days I was worried I didn't want to kind of burden them. Because, I don't know, like, I guess you guys move around a lot, so it's not so much like an expat immigrant scene.
Yeah.
But, I just got here. I didn't want to suddenly be, like, going into deeper meaningfuls on my anxiety or what I was worried about, because everybody's dealing with their own shit. But I just sort of had to get over that and go for it, if that makes sense.
Realise that you are still you and your problems are still you, no matter where you are. It's very true.
It's a huge lesson to get across, I think. Lots of people have this notion that if they escaped all these things that they think are like, a huge part of their issues or problems, like they'd suddenly all be gone and they'd have this magic life, but you're still a human being. You're still dealing with everything that you deal with. And there's a lot to be said about not feeling guilty for it as well. Like, I think some people, they'll they do move across the world, or they escape the job they didn't want, but then they find themselves still dealing with issues. And I think the thing is to not to remind everybody that they don't need to feel guilty for that. That's fine. You're a human being.
Yeah. It's
So,
normal for humans.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what about you guys? Like, so you travel around a lot, right? So
Yeah.
I guess you're pretty reliant on each other and people via your phones rather than settling into kind of being somewhere permanent. It's more of that travelling vibe rather than obviously you live on the road.
Yeah.
But you're not kind of integrating into community. Is that difficult?
I mean, we like our own
we like our
space. So, even when we were living in our flat back in the UK, we weren't people who used to enjoy going out. We would choose to stay in over seeing people, not because we're hermits / kind of hermits, but not fully hermits, but we just preferred, just to stay in. So this isn't necessarily that hard for us, and we're very similar. We get on very well. So, if one of us wants to do something, the other one most likely wants to do it as well.
Our social life kind of is each other.
Yeah.
And then you have a lot of international friends anyway. So
most of my friends, my closest friends, live everywhere but the UK. So, 2 of them live in Australia. Some of them live across Europe. So to me, I've always known to just be me with closer friends, but further away. And so
it hasn't been that much.
It has, yeah. There's been a few moments where we've bumped into someone, or we've made some friends who are also living in a van, travelling in the same area, and we finally met them, and it's been amazing to get together and to chat and to have something new around rather than just the 2 of us. But overall, like, we're quite comfortable to just, you know, just to be us.
I think luckily there is a community in this lifestyle, and we have met people who are in this, you know, they're travelling the same kind of road that we're on. So, like, you know, the people we've met who are also living in vans, we've done a couple of meetups with and stuff, and they've become our friends in that way. Like in the same way that you probably, if you move to one place, you meet your kind of the people you hang out with, and you hang out with them. It's a similar kind of situation. It's just you're all travelling, so you can kind of all make it work.
Yeah, there's been a few times, don't get me wrong, where, like, for example, I've been feeling a bit grey, let's say, and then I've spoken to a friend, and, you know, the call's ended, and I've looked at Ben and I've been like, I think I needed that, and suddenly, like, my energy and my spark is just back. But overall, it's...
I suppose with what's going on in the world as well, like with coronavirus, like lots of people can't see their friends or other people, so you're kind of getting used to this weird technology friendship vibe.
Yeah.
But it's just what it is when you're travelling on the road.
It's not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. And they call them ambiverts now.
Ooh.
I read the other day.
Okay.
Cool.
I'm kind of an extroverted introvert. Like, I really like my own company and I need time to recharge. But I also like having people around me and making friends and stuff. But I get it. Like, I get that you guys have each other. I think because I'm single as well, like, I'd maybe be quite lonely if I was completely on my own and camping around. But I think you make friends. Or or you rely more on your friends from other places, like you said, Laura. And with everybody sort of going online or talking online a lot more, it is helpful. I think.
Definitely.
I love talking to my friends from home, even if the time difference makes it tricky.
Yeah, that definitely must be tricky. But I guess it makes it a bit more worth it in a way, because then, like, it's not a case of just messaging whenever. It's a case of actually planning and then catching up properly, as opposed to just a text here, there, all day, whenever kind of thing. You actually get to sit down properly when you do speak and really catch up, and it kind of, like, what's the word? It just makes it all that more worth it and special, I guess. I can't think of the word.
I think it shows you who your friends are as well.
Yes, definitely. I agree with that so much. But awesome. So I like the that is such a, like, true kind of learning curve, I guess you could say, that a lot of people do almost forget or, you know, kind of need to remember. But going off of that, what's been your most memorable moment? Like, the best thing about the whole thing, or one thing that might have happened, like a specific day, or just, I don't know.
I've had loads of really good times. I think the most memorable thing really for me has been sort of the freedom, and I don't mean like I'm not talking about COVID. I mean just freedom to be myself and do what I want to do away from sort of the pressures of home and trying to make it work back there. Like, I don't teach as much yoga here and all of that stuff, so I just have time. And, you know, I have days where I just ride my motorbike to get a coffee or go for a walk and then, you know, go for a swim in the sunshine. And those days, for me, are the ones that feel like lovely. Yeah. And even though I've had, like, amazing days where I've done really cool things, and they're cool, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to not do them again, but it's the days where I kind of just embrace the little things.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That feel the best. What about you guys?
I mean, freedom in the sense that you've just said is 100%, like, I think, like you said, pretty much. We've had some incredible days. We've done some incredible things. But the freedom overall of, you know, we get up when we want. We do everything that we want when we want. There's no one literally ever telling us that we have to do this at this time, or we have to be here at this time, or you can't do that, or why are you doing that? It's literally, it is completely us. We can, yeah, there's sure in van life there's limits in regards to like where you stay and where you empty your water tank and, you know, all those kind of things, but they're nothing major.
I like what you were saying about little moments, like that you can have all these grand plans and seek these crazy adventures, and like you say, don't get me wrong, they're some of the most incredible things, but it's like the really little moments. Like I'm thinking, like, you know, we've hiked some crazy mountains, and don't get me wrong, they've been incredible days, but like you expected them to be great days. But then there's been little moments where like you're just like the first morning of our van life, we were walking along in a little forest and a man ran past, and because we're in France, he said bonjour. And it was like, it's just this like really profound moment. And it was just a guy saying bonjour to me. And he probably has no idea he even went for a run that day. But like he's become this really significant moment in my life. And I think that that's like something really like cool to be said for just like the little, like you say, like you just get on your motorbike and you drive to a coffee shop, and it's that little moment of like, this is life. Like this is what I do. Like, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, freedom.
Yeah,
in the
and I
little
do
ways.
that. I kind of remind myself, because I think you can. Yeah, like I live in a holiday destination. Not that there's any tourists at the moment, but you know, I don't live like I'm on holiday. I live like a normal life.
Yeah,
that's what happens. But kind of just taking the time to remind myself, like when I like drive, get on my motorbike and drive to somewhere. I go, this is cool. Like this is what I wanted. I'm doing what I wanted, and there's an affirmation in that, in, you know, kind of telling yourself that I'm doing what I chose to do right now. And at the same time, like whether you're in Cambodia or you're in England taking your dog for a walk, it's that kind of like, I'm choosing this is what I want to be doing.
And also that's okay. Like that's okay to be doing that. Like, you know, you don't have to be doing something else that isn't for you, kind of thing. Like it's okay to get on the moped and go and grab a coffee. It's okay to go and walk your dog, you know, when maybe, you know, you're at work and you should be, I don't know, doing something else, like in the sense of, you know, it's your lunch break and you should just be chilling out because you've worked hard all morning. But it's okay to go and walk that dog. It's okay to do you.
To choose to do something you want.
Yeah, it's, if that's what you want to do and that if that's what feels right, then that's okay. Like there is no, you know, like what even is normal life, you know? Yeah. Like to some people a normal life is the complete opposite to others. So yeah, I guess it's okay is what we could say.
Yeah, I mean everything. I crave sometimes being at home with my dog in Norfolk. I really miss it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd probably happily slot back into that. It would just depend on what happens next and what's next for my life, and I can make one decision and be back in. Well, I mean, not right now. I don't think I can get home right now. But I could, you know, I could make a decision to go home and slot back into that life that I used to have, which I love as well.
Yeah.
Or I'm here and I'm not doing that, and it, you know, it just is what it is, and we do the things that make us as happy as we think we're going to be, and being here has shown me that I don't need everything I thought I needed back home, and that's not necessarily like money and everything, but you know, I always place quite a lot of importance in having a good job.
Yeah.
And now I'm not so bothered about that. So, and that will come back with me home.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I think we learn things even if you know, it's not forever. Like
Yeah.
for you guys, even if van life isn't forever, if you find somewhere you want to settle, or
Yeah.
you know, you decide to do something else, your life goes on a different path. Like you still have the things you've learned in
Yeah.
the time you're away.
Definitely. It's that growth. It's that. Awesome.
Cool. Anyway,
Just a quick. We've got 3 kind of final questions that are kind of short and quick fire questions
round.
before we wrap it up.
let's do it.
I mean, one of them was kind of, what advice would you give to someone looking at taking their own path or following their dream? I mean, obviously a lot of it's kind of been said throughout, but maybe in three words, what advice would you give?
Just do it.
Just do it. I love it.
That's awesome.
That's cool. That's really cool. Nice and simple. Okay, something you're yet to tick off your bucket list. Or, if not a bucket list, your
Grand experience list.
grand experience.
Experience you haven't had.
I want to climb more mountains. I'm not bothered about which mountains.
Yeah, just mountains.
But I want to climb more mountains. We got halfway up a mountain on our motorbike at Christmas and realised we didn't have enough petrol.
Oh no.
wow.
And because there's no tourists, we weren't sure if there'd be anyone at the top. You can't walk up this mountain. It literally is like a drive-up mountain.
Yeah.
Because there are no tourists, we weren't sure if we were going to be able to get petrol at the top.
Yeah.
So we had to drive back to Owl instead.
Oh no.
But I would like to be on the top of more mountains.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's
I
when we
watch
come
you
to
guys
Cambodia.
on stories and
Yeah.
it looks amazing.
Oh well, when we come to Cambodia at some point, or when we meet
Cross paths.
we will
We'll go on a
definitely
mountain walk.
climb a mountain together.
That'd be cool.
And
Yeah, I'd love that.
awesome, it's in the diary that isn't yet around.
The day by day diary.
Yeah, it makes organised. Like when I moved here, I'll say this really quickly, but when I moved here, I was so used to like blocking. You know what it's like, Laura, right? You teach yoga,
Yeah.
you're just permanently all over the place.
Mhm.
And my diary was always so full at home, and like trying to squeeze people into certain times and all of that stuff. I just kind of refused to have a diary here or put anything in my calendar. So I have to remember everything off by heart. I remembered that we were going to record just in my head. I was like, Tuesday, 5 p.m, I'm recording. It doesn't always work.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so nice to not have a proper like calendarized,
Yeah.
diarized life.
I
It
guess
feels like
it's
freedom.
Yeah, I was literally about to say it's freedom. It's just more freedom. As long as obviously you don't forget everything. It's definitely more freedom.
I
Awesome.
do forget probably 15% of stuff. Or maybe 50, it depends on the week. Someone will ring me and I'll be like, shit, I forgot.
As long as it's not 100%, then I guess it's, it's all right to forget something sometimes. We all do. Last one. What mantra do you go by?
Oh, I've got 2.
Cool. Throw them at us. We'll take 2.
One is I am doing the best that I can.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a tendency to think I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
So I am doing the best that I can, and you are what you do, not what you say you will do.
Love it. Love, love, love. They're both amazing.
Relates both to
Yes,
them.
definitely.
Depends what mood I'm in to which one I need. Sorry, I have one more.
Mm-hmm.
I bloody love mantras. These are all on post-it notes around my room. The other one is I approve of myself.
That's cool. That's a really good
That
one.
one I use quite a lot.
They're all amazing. They're all like, we both relate to them so much, and I think a lot of people, if they don't already, probably will once they've heard them, or probably when they come across them, it like something clicks and it's like, oh yes, that's good. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and for finally kind of chatting a bit more and stuff. Like I said at the start, I've been wanting to for so long, and I guess this was obviously like the perfect kind of way to do it. But obviously I feel like there's still so much more, so much more. But maybe we'll just
do a follow-up.
maybe we'll just have to do that like the mountain will just have to be like one of our megas, so we have plenty of time to speak about everything.
Good 7-hour walk.
I'd love that. Hopefully I can get to Europe in the summer and we can...
Yeah, that would
be...
be...
You're not, you guys. I have friends in France I need to see and friends in Spain. So
amazing.
Cool.
and a friend in Italy. So as long as I can travel, I'm sure I can be where you guys are.
Well, we'll definitely plan something. 100%. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, and we'll definitely chat soon anyway. But have a wonderful day, but it's getting late for you now, isn't it? Or later.
Yeah, it's 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
6:15. I'm going to go to the gym
Nice.
and do a run and then have a sauna.
Enjoy.
Enjoy the
I
little
will do.
thing.
That
Thank
sounds
you guys.
like...
Enjoy your day.
Awesome. Have a lovely evening, and we'll speak soon.
Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Less Trodden Path podcast with Laura and Benedict. Make sure you subscribe to us on whichever platform it is you're using. If you would like to feature on the Less Trodden Path podcast, then head over to our website, thelesstroddenpath.com. Thank you for listening. The Less Trodden Path podcast is sponsored by imakesounds.com, music for content creators. If you're looking for royalty-free music to feature on your own podcast, blogs, YouTube videos and more, then head over to imakesounds.com.